that's good.
I haven't found my first Blanton's.
Wow. That's different. I really like that.
Peychauds or Peychauds or...
Yeah, no, I'm gorgeous.
Although probably fuzzier was better.
Okay. So this is not what I expected. Hey gang, it's about that time. It's Thursday, 7:30. It's a Bourbcast night, and last week we did the Western Reserve, and the rumor is that Western Reserve juice comes from George Dickel Distillery. And I made mention last week that I don't like George Dickel whiskey. I had tried it, I don't know, almost 2 years ago, and I didn't like it. And I have been pretty vocal about it ever since, that I didn't like George Dickel. Well, after tasting the Western Reserve from Lakewood, Ohio last week, the 4-year, I thought, I think it's time to give George Dickel a fair tasting now that I've got some experience and, now we've got some time into it. So we're going to do the 12-year because this is the one that I tried a couple of years ago and didn't like. So the only fair thing to do is to try it again and to see if I feel different about it, because I did kind of like the Western Reserve. I mean, it wasn't, I'm not going to put it in the echelons of some of the best whiskeys I've ever had. It was kind of timid, and for 86 proof or something like that, it kind of ate or drank more like a 80, maybe a, 76 proof. I don't know. So this is 90 proof? 90 proof. This is a Tennessee whiskey. This one, they spell it without the E because George Dickel, who started the company, he was born about 40 years after the Declaration of Independence was written. And as he grew up and started doing whiskey, he named it the George A. Dickel Whiskey Company, and he decided to do it without the E for Scottish tradition. George Dickel started way back when chilling. Now, this is not the same as chill filtering, but they did start chilling, almost trying to freeze their bourbon and their whiskey before it went through the Lincoln County process. Lincoln County process is charcoal filtering. You can't be an official Tennessee bourbon, or Tennessee whiskey rather, without going through the charcoal process. That's what makes Tennessee whiskey Tennessee whiskey. You can't call it or market it as Tennessee whiskey unless it goes through that Lincoln County process. And different companies do it different ways. Jack Daniel's sends it through once for the old number 9. For the Gentleman Jack, they'll send it through the charcoal twice. It just slow drips through there. But and it's not only exclusive to Tennessee that they do the charcoal filtering. Michter's does it. Michter's does chill filtering and charcoal filtering. Anyway, but Dickel's is the only one, at least they claim to be the only one, that chills their whiskey before they charcoal filter it, which I think is kind of interesting. The first thing that hit me was fruit and floral. It's the very first thing that came into my schnoz, fruit and floral. Okay, there I got some of the traditional rye notes, toasted cereal. I don't even know the mash bill on this. I didn't look it up. Almost has a granola-esque nose to it. I'm getting a little bit of chocolate on that nose. All right, let's give it a shot. Okay, here we go. The bloom is slow but steady, and it's continuing. The bloom, for those of you who aren't familiar with my term, it's a coffee term. When you put water through coffee, you watch the grounds and they bloom up. That's kind of the experience that I feel when I get that alcohol burn on my tongue, because it doesn't always just stay in one place. Sometimes it moves around. Sometimes it goes backwards along the back of my tongue. Sometimes it moves out to the side. Sometimes it comes up into the roof of my mouth. Sometimes it makes my lips numb. The bloom on this one just kind of stayed stationary. It rose up, and then it was stationary on the center of my tongue, but it was a good one. It's not overly ethanol-y. It doesn't burn real hard. It's a good 90 proofer, and it feels like it. it just sat there and it behaved itself. It was actually a pretty nice mouthfeel, a nice bloom. It feels a little warm to me, and it shouldn't. It's only been outside for a few minutes. I had it in the air conditioning until just a few minutes ago, but it's going to present itself differently when I put some ice on it. So we're going to do water, we're going to do ice, but let me see if I can get another taste of this here. The first taste of it, I didn't like it, but the second taste of it presented itself as sweeter. Those Tennessee whiskey notes are there, which almost mirrors that high rye, the kind of the greenness, the earthiness, the toasted cereals. It's all kind of there, but there's also a little bit of a sweeter contingent to it. Here's a great way that I can try to explain this to you. Okay, so Uncle Nearest is a Tennessee whiskey. They have the 1856 and they have the 1884, and I understand they've got another one now. I like the 1884 better than the 1856 because the 1856 is more like a traditional Tennessee whiskey, which I am just not. I love bourbon, and I love a good rye with a lot of those great bourbon-esque characteristics. The 1884 from Uncle Nearest presents itself as a sweeter Tennessee whiskey, although they don't call it a Tennessee whiskey. The 1856, to me, seems like more traditional Tennessee whiskey. This one is somewhere in between. I've always been very harsh to George Dickel, and I'm going to reverse some of that harshness with them because although I don't love it, I don't hate it as much as I did when I was still new to drinking whiskey. I'm going to give it another shot here just to see if I know what I'm doing. See if I can pull out some notes because it's been a little difficult. Some notes, sometimes it's just hard to pull out notes. And it could be because of the temperature outside. It could be because of the scents out here, the smells, the odors. It could be the allergens in the air. It could be a lot of different things. There's a lot of things that can mess up your nose and your palate because your nose and your palate are simpatico, you know. Decent mouthfeel, a little buttery, not overly so. I like it really buttery. So it's good. Sometimes I take a sip of this and it seems sweet, and sometimes I take a sip of this and it doesn't. It gives me those grassy notes, those Tennessee whiskey notes. It's got a tobacco-y type of taste to it. It's got the fruits I'm getting on the palate are like raisins, dates. I'm not going to say that it's a sweet bourbon or sweet whiskey. It just doesn't seem to be, like I said, that second time I tried it, I liked it a little bit better. Now I'm going back to it, and I'm finding myself just not so sure about it. So a little water in here. Not much of anything. A little more pasty, which is not a compliment. It didn't really open up the flavors at all. It brought down the proof, which was something I had going for it. I didn't add much water, maybe quarter ounce, maybe an eighth of an ounce, not very much. However much 1 milliliter is. Yeah, I don't like it on water. It brought out maybe a little bit of the caramels, but not much. One of my gorgeous ice spheres. So this is what we're going to be doing next week. This is the George Dickel Bottled and Bond. When I first tried the Dickel 12, I got told, nah, if you want to taste good Dickel, get the Bottled and Bond. Now, the Bottled and Bond is not an annual release. It only comes out every now and then. This one comes from the distilling season of 2005, so I've had this a while. All right, we'll try a little of this on the ice. All right, so this is a rarity. I like the George Dickel whiskey on ice best. I like it when it's cold. I like it when the flavors are muted. It's got a sweetness to it. And now that they've suggested maple syrup, I can get it. Yeah, sure. I don't love it. But of the three expressions, neat on water, on ice. Ice, for me, is best. Again, some of this could just be atmospheric. It's hot out. It's muggy. It's nasty. But I'm drinking a nice cold drink. All right, guys. Again, thank you so much for hanging out, and I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about George Dickel Tennessee Sour Mash Whiskey, Superior number 12. Can't say I love it. I don't hate it like I thought I did, but I don't love it. So, all right. You guys take care. We'll see you next Thursday.